Yeah. What more? Yeah.
There's just a lot to unpack there.
Oh! Hey everyone! Welcome to Not Your Mother's Sex Ed, where we provide educational content for all things sex related for most of all ages. It's going to be a wonderful ride, so I hope you'll join us.
Shall I introduce myself?
Please do.
So, my name is Kristen. I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm just kidding. I was your classic late bloomer. I spent most of my teenage years with my nose in a book. I like emotional communication, physical touch, and in my 30s, and I still don't know what to do with my arms when my husband goes down on me. So, nice to meet you.
Please let us know if you know how to handle that.
Tips and tricks. Question from the ladies to the ladies.
And I'm Michelle, and I spent most of my 20s shattering my religious-themed traditional views on sex. I like emotional connection, and I do like an attentive partner. I also was a late bloomer myself, so
Cheers.
We're all in good company here.
So we're really here today just to talk about us, our reasons for doing the podcast. Hopefully it'll let you guys get to know us a little bit. I know you probably don't care that much about us right now, but I promise we'll grow on you. You will.
You will.
But I think our main reasons behind building up this project is this really deep need that we see for comprehensive sex education and
Yeah, I totally agree.
For destigmatizing sex and all things sex related.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, and we wanted to talk a little bit today just about who we were, why we're here, with comprehensive sex education being a major thing that we need to address.
Huge.
It's been a collaborative effort, I'll say that.
Yes.
So me personally, I have always wanted to be, I thought my ideal job would be to be a sex ed teacher. And
you'd be good at that. I'd take your class.
Yeah, I thought
whatever that's worth. I'd take your class.
That's kind of one of those like pipe dreams that I've always had, is I wanted to be a sex ed teacher, and I thought it would be really fun, and I could be really innovative in my classes, and really dive deep and help today's youth or today's adults or anybody in between find those answers.
Yeah.
So I was telling a friend of mine that. It's been several months back now at this point, but I was telling her that, and she's like, well, do it. And I was like, I mean, I guess I could, but I don't really want to go back to school, I'll be honest. I am a millennial.
I already have $70,000 of debt.
Yeah. And so it just kind of seemed like a lot of work. And, work's important, but I'm just not in it at the moment. So then actually said, we'll make online classes, and then you can and then you can just record them and upload them, and people can use them as they need to. Well, the online class structure kind of wasn't what I really had in mind.
Sure.
I wanted something more interactive, and I didn't really want to just be sitting here talking at the audience. I wanted audience participation. So that led me to say, hey, maybe I should do a podcast. That's a little more interactive. And then I think did I pitch it to you at that point?
I think you did. I think you sent me a text message or a Snapchat. We're kind of dinosaurs. We don't do a whole lot on social media. But
or I honestly actually might have even posted it on Facebook because I am a dinosaur.
That is absolutely what you did. You posted it on Facebook, and then I commented. And I think I was like, if this is something you do, I'd be 100% on board with you.
Yeah. And that's actually how we started.
And here we are. Not Your Mother's Sex Ed.
Not Your Mother's Sex Ed. And I'm so excited.
We have a logo and everything. We're official.
Yes. So that's kind of how we started. It's been a journey so far, as I'm sure you would expect, but I'm excited, and we're doing it, and we're making it work.
We're doing it. We're making it work.
Yeah. So that's how we got here. So then that brings us back to comprehensive sex education.
Don't even get me started on comprehensive sex education.
Actually, let's get you started on comprehensive sex education.
There's none.
I know.
None.
Have you done any research on other, like, what our sex education looks like? What do you know about how our sex education is?
I know that there's a huge dichotomy in terms of what students, middle school and high school students in particular, are getting throughout the country, and in fact throughout the world. There's some countries who have no sex education. There's some states whose sex education is based solely off the idea of abstinence. There's some states where they're very into the scientific and the logical and the, hey, let's sit down and tell you all your parts, all the important things. But the fact that our young people aren't getting the same level of education across the board is what's kind of scary. And the fact that there are places where the only sex education that students are getting is, hey, don't have sex. I don't think it's sustainable, and I don't think it's realistic. And as a mom of 2 little girls, I hope that they grow up knowing the things that they need to know, you know?
Yeah.
So,
so I looked into it a little bit because I was curious. I know, so we're based in the United States, and I don't know if this is how it is with every country, or if it's strictly a United States issue, but I feel like we're so focused on how it is here that we forget that there's this whole other world that may or may not be tackling the same issue. I feel like here we tend to try to reinvent the wheel when we could just take other countries' lead and structure what we're trying to do that they've already done and implementing it here. So I don't know if that's strictly us, or if, you know, you folks out there in other countries, I hope you're watching, if you have also had similar, you know, situations, which obviously we do need to focus some efforts on home, but taking in the full scope of things, we need to do too. So I found that this is actually our lack of comprehensive sex education. When I was looking at it, I found that it's actually an issue in a lot of other countries worldwide. There is a European country. Is it Finland? Is it the Netherlands?
like Finland, Switzerland, Denmark, the Netherlands, they all seem to kind of have it together.
Yeah. So I think it's the Netherlands who has amazing sex education. It's comprehensive, it covers everything, and it's structured really well. So that was one thing that I found that was really super cool, is that they're killing it. They're rocking the game. But looking at some other places, I found that Eastern Asia has some issues with comprehensive sex education. Some African countries have issues with comprehensive sex education. I did find that, I believe it's India, has a really great program.
Really?
But it's not necessarily structured in schools like we think of it here.
Oh, so it's like an external...
It's like an external program that they have for sex education.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So and I found some of those things in different areas as well, where it was kind of external to school, whereas the other programs, what we kind of think of classically as sex education, is all school-based here.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. Part of me thinks it's really great that there are external programs that people can take advantage of, but I think that there are benefits to having it in a public school environment, at least, that ensures that everybody is getting the same level of education.
Yeah, they're all having that access.
And that there's no saying no because of, you know, social class, social standing, access. So.
So I found there were some programs like that, which I thought was really awesome. But overall, I did feel that the United States was in good company with our lack of sex education.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here, is we want to do our best to bring you the content. We want to educate our preteens and our teens on kind of what to expect. We want to talk about puberty. We want to talk about sex. We want to talk about just reproductive health. We want to make sure that our little boys are getting similar education to our little girls, that our adult women are having a voice, that our adult men aren't giving in to toxic masculinity, and that we're all having access to information.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do, is do our best to make sure that we're giving out all of that information. So exciting stuff.
Exciting. And hopefully, too, as we get going and as we establish more of a base and more of a relationship with you guys as our watchers or as our listeners, that you guys will feel comfortable coming to us with any questions that you have or anything that we may not have addressed that you want to see us address. We would love to be that sounding board for you.
Definitely.
I think there's not enough out there in the way of just comfortable environments where you can go and be like, hey, I have this question I've been kind of embarrassed to ask, but what are your thoughts on X, Y, or Z?
Yeah.
Bring us those questions. We want to answer them. That's
what
we're here for.
Exactly. And at the end today, we will give you our email address so that you can email those questions. You can always comment down below, reach out on any kind of social media that we're attached to. Find us. We want to, answer your questions. That's why we're here. So definitely keep an ear out for that at the end. We'll probably plug it in the video as well. For anybody watching on YouTube, thanks for watching us. Over at the podcast side, if you're just listening, thanks for listening. And, if you want to see our pretty faces, definitely check the YouTube out as well.
You're missing some great outfits, let me tell you that.
Looking at darling today.
Darling. So on top of it.
In your experience, I know, like you mentioned earlier, that you have 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
What have you found to be some barriers to their sex education, their comprehensivity of their sex education?
So we're in a little bit of a unique situation, I think, and I know that we're not the only household out there, but my kiddos are actually my stepdaughters, so they spend 50% of their time with us and 50% of their time with their mom, and there is a very large dichotomy between the households in terms of what we believe religiously.
Mm-hmm.
So one half of their family, their biological mom side of the family, is very, very Catholic, and I've noticed a pattern, and I don't mean this in any sort of negative way, but I have noticed a pattern that the comfort level of speaking about things of a sexual nature tends to go down the more religion tends to be brought into it. And so at one of their homes, to my knowledge, they're really not getting much in the way of sexual education. And at our house, their dad and I, we both tend to be pretty secular. And I grew up with a mom who was a nurse, so I knew all the proper anatomical terms. I knew what sex was from a very, very young age, and I feel very lucky that I was. And so that's something that I've always tried to pass on to the kids. And there's been some heated discussion between the households about whether or not those are appropriate things for kids to learn. But we're at the point now where we're starting to get some backing from the school. Our one daughter, our oldest, is 12 now, and she's actually been through like a human health unit in school where they went through all of the anatomical names. They went through kind of the basics of what to expect during puberty, which I thought was exciting. They hit that at the kind of near the end of 5th grade, which is good because now she's in 6th grade and everybody's hitting puberty, herself included. She had her first period 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But she was prepared for it. We talked to her
great.
and she knew what to expect. So I really admired the school for the way they handled it. They had the boys and the girls together in the same classroom. I know a lot of times they'll split them up.
Yeah.
So they were together, which I thought was great. I think it's important for young girls to know what young boys are going through and young boys to know what young girls are going through.
Yeah, I agree.
So if nothing else, there's some sense of empathy there and understanding. The one thing my daughter was a little upset about, though, she came home and she said, hey, they showed us a video in class today about puberty, and the one about the boys was very scientific. It talked a lot about, what sorts of things they would be experiencing, all the science behind it, all the anatomy behind it. She's like, and then the video that they showed us for the girls wasn't that. It was much more flowery, like welcome to womanhood and you're blossoming and this and that. And so she felt like she didn't come out of it with the same level of biological understanding that the boys did.
Oh, that's a shame.
And then she had more questions too, because the boys' video did actually touch on the topic of masturbation. Okay. Like, hey, you're getting to this age, you're going to start, experiencing erections. You're going to start experiencing these feelings where you want to touch yourself, and this is called masturbation, and this is why it happens. They didn't talk about that at all in the girls' video. And so she had to come home and be like, is masturbation something that girls do too? And luckily her dad and I were like, you know what, let's sit down and have this conversation. But there's so many households out there where, kids don't feel like they have somebody that they can come and ask those questions to, or where parents just aren't comfortable sharing that for moral or for personal reasons. And so I'm glad that we have an environment that we can, but I know there's so many kids out there who don't have that.
Yeah.
And our 8-year-old has only just started kind of touching on this thing in school. She's in 3rd grade. But she did bring home worksheets just last week where she had to fill out, they had like the entire human body, not really like a graphic image, it was just kind of like a blob figure, but it had arrows pointing to all of the major points, and then it asked us as a family to sit down and do this activity together if we were willing. We had her go through and write down what she thought each part was.
Okay.
And then afterwards we went through as a family and we wrote down what the actual scientific name for things were. Really cool. Things like breasts, they had us do breasts, vulva, vagina, and butt.
Oh, okay.
So, which I thought was great. I think that those are things 8-year-old kids should know, if only to open communication and to give them the tools they need to be able to ask questions or speak out if they need to.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
So that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Religions don't view sex in all of the same ways.
Right.
So how we view sexuality is going to differ between different religions. Mm-hmm. And so if we're getting sex education in schools, then the child comes home, and similar to what you've dealt with in your personal life, we see that that's kind of mirrored. Kids come home and parents are saying, oh, we need to pull you out of this class. This doesn't align with what we believe. I know that you brought up Catholicism, and part of Catholicism is they don't use birth control.
Yeah, very much.
Traditionally, I should say. Everybody practices religions in their own way, but traditionally Catholicism does not advocate for the use of birth control. Mm-hmm. And so that's a section of sex education that I would imagine that growing up as a Catholic child, you would not be exposed to. Thinking that, why do I need to tell my teenage child about birth control methods when we don't use birth control? And we get into that in other podcasts specifically, but so that's one hurdle. It's not mirroring what their values are as they're growing up.
That's right.
So they're lacking it at home, and if you have an area, whether it's a town, a city, a state, a country, any of these areas where you have a high prevalence of religion, then you're going to have the same barriers to sex education. Which is backed up by what I found when I was looking into other countries and kind of their issues as well.
And even within the United States, there's a pretty big difference between sex education being taught in kind of like the northern part of the country versus what is typically called like the Bible Belt. Where you get a lot of the abstinence talk, but you don't get discussions about birth control. You don't get access to things like condoms or sexual education in the same way that other kids do. So.
And that's the thing, too, is humans are going to have sex. Yeah. I can't say that all 16-year-olds are having sex or are going to have sex at 16. Our own personal experiences don't back that up. Sure didn't. Yeah.
My mom is watching this. You're welcome.
Yeah, so, we can't say that. But there is a demographic of teenagers who will have sex, who are going to have sex. Young adults, older adults, we're all going to have sex. It has its purpose, it's fun, it feels good, it's a biological function, so it's going to happen. And we need to provide the tools to have it safely. Yeah. And so your abstinence-only programs aren't giving you the tools to have sex safely. If you're not going into the ins and outs, then you're getting people who are engaging in sexual activity not being well prepared. And when you're not well prepared to have that sexual activity, but you have it anyway, then that sets you up for, emotional issues, that can set you up for pregnancy, for STDs, for risky sexual behavior, not even knowing that it's risky sexual behavior.
Well, and I think that's mirrored even just in global news. I mean, there was the AIDS epidemic. There still is an AIDS epidemic in certain parts of Africa, and it's not for any lack of trying on their part, it's because so many of those rural countries don't have the educational systems in place to be able to provide the people the knowledge they need to be able to say, this is how this disease is spreading, this is how we can prevent it.
Yeah.
They don't have condoms, they didn't have anybody, and now there's educational programs going in that are saying, hey, here's a better way, and you're seeing those numbers drop rapidly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been time-tested and proved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
comprehensive sex education, it's super important. And we want to have a good time too.
We really do.
Right?
We always want to have a good time.
Everybody's favorite topic is sex, even if they tell you it's not, it is, right?
I dare you to go into any bar, sit down and talk with people, and if you cannot get sex to come up in the conversation, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
We all like to talk about it. We just don't like to say that we like to talk about it. We'll talk about anything and everything.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Some of my favorite conversations, and they can be, I feel like you can learn so much just by having a conversation, like even if it's like, and they're funny, they're enjoyable, you learn stuff.
And they show you that you're not the only one.
Yeah.
The sexual experience is a shared human experience, and yeah, there are parts that are embarrassing to talk about, and there are parts that are gross to talk about, but they are embarrassing and gross for everybody. Yeah. You know, show me somebody who has a good first time story.
Right. So I know I opened with this at the beginning, that we want to be here for most of all ages. At least my goal, we talked about this some as well, of course, or we wouldn't be here today, but my goal is that I want to really provide support to kids over the 10 to 12 age range. So I don't want to be crass. We've had that discussion in depth, that we don't want to be crass here. But we do want to have a lighthearted air about what we talk about, because yes, we want it to be educational, but we also want you to have fun, because if you're not having fun, you're not going to be here. But even if you're not stumbling upon us through your YouTube browsing, we'd like to be a solution for teachers. If there's a topic that you're struggling with connecting with your class about, whatever the case may be, whatever the topic is,
anything.
If you're struggling to connect with your students aren't going to gain the knowledge that they need, even if you're presenting the knowledge there. I know that, given my own experiences, when you went through either like a reproductive health class or puberty or any of that sex education adjacent topic, did you ever have any of your teachers give any personal experiences?
Not really.
Yeah.
I never did, and I would have loved to have heard it.
Yeah.
I would have loved it.
Yeah.
But no, not a single one. And I think even now, I mean, in fairness, we're older. We're probably older than we look.
I hope we're older than we look.
For sure. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Hopefully that Neutrogena is paying off. I think back in the day that 100% would have been taboo, stigma, like it was by the textbook and that's it. I think that there is a little bit more freedom to talk about taboo things, but even now, I mean, I have friends, I have family who are teachers, and I think that they would be scared to ever give a personal experience, because there is always going to be a parent or an administrator or something who is going to take issue with the fact that they shared that.
Yeah.
And it's going to become a big problem. And so I don't blame teachers for not sharing their personal experiences. Blame you at all. I probably wouldn't either, but I would have loved it. It would have made such a difference to me. Yeah.
And so we're a third party.
Yeah.
And we are going to share experiences that we've had. We're going to share your experiences, so send them to us. Follow us, so if we ever are asking for certain experiences, and you want to participate, definitely we want to have you on, and we want to have your stories here. And so for our teachers out there, we hope that maybe it's not this particular episode that you're sharing, that
your kids probably don't care about us. Let's be honest. This is more for introducing ourselves to you.
Yeah. But we'll be doing a puberty episode.
We will be.
And we actually, I hope that it comes to fruition, because it sounds like she's on board. But one of your kiddos, we want to bring her in about the puberty talk.
Yep, my 12-year-old will be on.
Yeah, and so that's something that you could share with your students. And that's, or, you know, if you're a parent, kind of the same thing. Like, if you don't feel comfortable, that's okay. That's okay.
That's fine.
Not everybody does, and we're not shaming you for not feeling comfortable with it. Because so much of this is, it's like a generational thing. Like, it's very generational. We're still trying to break that stigma. And even if you actively want to break the stigma, you were raised in a certain way that may be hard to do that. So if you want to have the talk with one of your kids and you don't know how about, you know, you sit down as a family and you watch an episode. Maybe you'll get something out of it too. I hope so.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, hey. Yeah. We're here for all ages, like we said. If there's a video we haven't made and you would really like to see us make specifically for you or specifically for your classroom or specifically for your family, I'm sure we can do that.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to.
We can tailor what we talk about.
Yeah.
Just know that, we're not going to be crass, but we are going to be honest. We're going to use...
we'll be honest, for sure.
We're going to use real words and real experiences.
Some of our episodes are going to be a little on the goofier side, a little more lighthearted. Some of them are going to be a little more on the strictly educational side. You're going to see and hear real stories, whether it's our own real stories or other people's real stories. And all of that together, we want to give you as a tool to provide sex education, not only to you, but the people in your life. So that's what we're tailoring this to, is we believe that a 10-year-old should be able to talk about the things that we're talking about and learn about them in an educational manner.
And I'll say, as a parent, had you told me a couple of years ago that I would start talking to my child about sex at 10 years old, I would have said that you were crazy. But that's about when the conversation started.
Yeah.
That's when kids start to develop. They haven't quite hit puberty yet, but they're starting to develop. They're starting to have questions. Let's be honest, between social media and TV and video games, they're seeing things.
It's there. It's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
They're going to see it on billboards, on advertisements. They're going to start having questions because they're finally starting to build their own self-identity, and they're starting to build an awareness of the world around them. And if they don't have the freedom to ask questions about it, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But that is also the age, and you have to look at this realistically too, trigger warning, is that if a child doesn't know how to talk about their own body, their own experiences, their own parts, they cannot possibly be expected to be able to come to you as a parent or a teacher or a friend if they are having problems with bullying or abuse or something like that. They have to have the tools to deal with that just as much as they have to have the tools to be able to ask the things that they're curious about. So
definitely.
So that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So we want to be support to you. I hope you enjoy all the content we put out. So I think that means it's time for our next segment. So this segment is our Sex in the News segment.
Sex in the News! I'm so excited!
So what we're going to do is, for each segment of Sex in the News, one of us is going to give a headline that we found. I'll be on social media, any of our news sources. Send it to us also. If you find some good headlines, send it to us. And one of us will have read it, and we're going to present it to the other person. That other person's going to give their thoughts, and then we will dive in on what the actual article says. So today I'm going to present a headline.
I'm really excited.
To Kristen here.
I might try to guess what it's about after you give me the headline.
Okay. So today's headline is penis facials, the new Hollywood trend for skincare.
Okay. A penis facial.
This one's wild.
I know that we said we weren't going to be crass, and I stand behind that, but the only thing I can think of is either one of two things. Sorry. Either using ejaculate as like a facial serum.
That's what I thought going into the article.
Or you know those like silicone beauty blenders? They look like little chicken cutlets. Or like using the tip of the
yeah.
penis as honestly, a facial massager, cold roller kind of situation.
I could see both of those being accurate. So I was picturing essentially that.
That's all I've got.
So I don't know if this might even be more wild than that. I was a little shocked when I dived into this article. So.
Oh God, they don't like blend up penises and put it in the face, do they?
So the basis of this article is using the foreskins of Korean infants in your facial. Yeah. What more? Yeah.
So, there's just a lot to unpack there. I feel like
there is a lot to unpack there. So
first off, where are they getting them? Second off, why specifically Korean infants?
Korean infants, yeah.
And
three what? Yeah. So
also for cost.
Yes, it is a Hollywood facial. So it is for our most elite celebrities. So that was how the article was introduced, was Korean infant foreskins.
Okay.
And I couldn't help but picture them plastering on the face of the person. That was my initial, which it's not that.
Like a little mask?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was imagining.
Under the eyes?
That's how they presented it. It's not that. So it's called EGF, which is something growth factor. It has to do with stem cells. It has to do with stem cells. And apparently these stem cells are found in foreskin. I don't know. I assume infant foreskin. Otherwise we could use anybody's foreskin. I don't know.
90-year-old man foreskin.
Yeah,
I guess that sounds far less appealing for a facial.
So growth factor stem cells found in the foreskin is harvested from the foreskin.
Okay.
And it's essentially infused or turned into a serum.
So they're separated from the foreskin itself. It's not...
Yes, it's not actual foreskins. It was a little misleading in the beginning of the article. I definitely would have clicked faster if it said foreskin facials. Probably.
Is there something special about Korean baby stem cells that makes them use that? Or is it just that for whatever scientific governmental reason, they're just easy to get?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. It didn't cover it in the article. If you know anything about this topic, please comment. Please let us know.
We'll probably have a whole episode about it now because I am hyper fixated.
My guess is either the company who started this is based in Korea. That was a thought that
would make sense. There is a lot of Korean beauty regimens.
Yes.
That are pretty big on the market these days.
That was a thought that I had. Second thought was perhaps that the prevalence of circumcision.
Oh.
I
was like, then why would they not use Jewish baby foreskin? Clearly, this is not something that we're well educated in.
No. We see this is our journey. Our journey is to become educated.
We're going to learn so much together. Our next episode, we're going to come at you with anything we picked up after this.
Yes. So my other thought is that the prevalence of circumcision in Korea could be higher, which would lead you to more access.
I guess that's fair.
But I don't actually know that answer. So how much do you think this procedure costs? So I guess I will say it does also involve microneedling.
Microneedling.
It also involves a chemical peel.
Okay.
And of course your growth factor foreskin serum.
Mm-hmm.
With which the thought is, and they don't have great research on this yet, but the thought is that the stem cells are like new tissue on your face that your body's incorporating to make you look younger.
Okay.
So
I've heard of like stem cell facial treatments.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess overall it makes sense. I think that
placenta, they also have facial treatments using
that
placenta.
one's been big for a hot minute. Yeah.
So we've just broken into our male sector and are now harvesting foreskins.
Huh.
Oh yeah. So how much do you think that costs?
I'm gonna say $800.
That's not too far off. It's $650.
Okay, I shot over.
Yeah,
I was not expecting to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody wanted to know the value of Korean baby foreskin.
I wonder how many foreskins it takes to make enough serum for one face.
You think if it was more than one, it would cost a little bit more, don't you think?
I don't
There's
know.
only so many babies being born every year.
I mean, yeah. More questions than answers in today's Sex in the News.
So many. This is why this is already my favorite segment.
I love it so much. I hope you love it too.
We will have one after every episode.
Yes.
Sometimes it'll be great, like this. Sometimes
Yes.
it'll be sad. Sometimes it'll be anger-inducing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it'll just make you want to go out and do research. I will be extensively researching foreskins themselves.
Yes. Yes.
When we complete filming. Just so you know.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. If you thought we were funny, if you found us interesting, if you like sex, if you hate sex, we're going to get you to like it. Don't worry. If you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're a sexpert, or if you want to be a sexpert like us, if you think we sound sexy, if you think that we're very cute, or if you're just bored and need some entertainment, hit that like and subscribe button.
Like and subscribe.
Come back. We will have more episodes, that I promise you. If you have a question that you want us to answer or discuss, like we talked about earlier, even if it's something that you're nervous to ask, I promise we don't judge. Please email us. We'll put our email address, we'll put our Facebook page, and any other... We'll even probably link the article we talked about today.
Yeah, we can link the article for
down
you
in the
so you
information
can read
below.
it for yourself.
Yeah.
Not Your Mother's Sex Ed Pod at gmail.com. Email
Not
us
Your Mother's
there.
Sex Ed Pod.
Yes.
At gmail.com. I know it's a mouthful. So are we. So. Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
Cut.
I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about this for very much longer.